Okay, we are live and welcome back to another episode of the Candid Cox cast, where we talk about the good, the bad, and the very ugly of coxing and rowing. We don't hold back here. So if you think that you are special because you have hit a log, steered poorly, made mistakes in racing, don't, because you're certainly not alone. So I am your host, Whitney Powell, also known as the Candid Cox, and I'm so excited to have such a special guest on today. I love her to death. Rianne Koomen from the Netherlands. So I'm so excited
Yeah.
that such diverse coxswains, with so many different experiences and clubs from all over the world. So I don't even want to start talking about how amazing your story is. I want you to tell your story and kind of where you're from and who you are. So if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from.
Okay. Well, Rianne, I'm from the Netherlands. I live in The Hague, and I started coxing when I think it was in 2012, so it was 8 years ago. It's not that long time ago, and it was when I was studying in Leiden, and I started my interest in rowing. Actually, started quite late because I was already starting my master's. So I became a member of NJORD. That's the oldest student association in the Netherlands. And I wanted to do the hardcore racing and coxing and stuff. And unfortunately, due to a lot of things in the association, like the head coach wasn't approving because I was already a little bit older. I was already 26 years old. And so I wasn't taking when people talk to you, you say something back, and he wasn't used to that. So unfortunately, I wasn't didn't came through the selection. So then one of the board members found that there was a lightweight men's crew in Amsterdam at O'Connell who didn't have Cox yet. So they asked me if I wanted to join their crew. So I actually went 8 times a week, training 8 times a week, did my master's in Leiden, went to Amsterdam every day to have the practices and also the racing and during my master. So and then we were that crew was like really bad. We were always lost, and eventually during the year on a Sunday, a nice sunny Sunday, were having a drink with the coaches, and at one point I told them, okay, if we win a race this year, I will become a member of Volcano. And then the next, and we were having a drink, we were having 11. They said, okay, we will keep you to this. And then the next race, we became last again, and then we selected back to a 4. So we went to row in a Cox 4. And so we had the first race in the Cox 4, and what happened? We won. So eventually, in the Netherlands, it's like a tradition. When you win during your racing year, you're not allowed to drink at all. But when you win a race, you are allowed to drink. So during the evening, and you have to shave the guy's head like bald, so they go bald because they win their first race. And we were having drinks and laughs, and all of a sudden, one of the board members comes over to me and he says, "Well, you made a promise. You will become a member, so now you have to sign the paper to become a member." So eventually, I ended up at O'Connell and been steering there for a long time. And I actually when you reach the highest point in your rowing career, then sometimes it's better to okay, now it's time for the younger people. So last year I went to Henley with a male crew, and we actually won. So that was pretty amazing. So it's like a short version of my rowing career and who
Yeah,
I
and
am.
we're definitely. I want to talk about that for sure because that's a
Yeah.
good story as well. So we'll come back to that. But for now, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it's no problem. So actually, after that, I decided that it's now time for the younger generation to do the coxing with the more experienced crews, because it's for them. Everybody, during the student association, everybody becomes younger, and eventually, I'm already 34 years old now. So what is my goal to be there. And so it's for the next generation, it's their time to do, like, go to Henley, do your thing, do the amazing stuff. So I actually was like, okay, no, I'm not gonna do it anymore. So sometimes maybe when they ask me for, okay, can you help me with this crew because they need an experienced coxswain, then I will come, and of course, and maybe some coaching later on. But you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's so cool. I actually have a very special place in my heart for Okanos because
I know.
yes, I do, because they were so generous when I brought my first crew to the Hollenbecker. And I mean, loaned us boats and oars and showed us around the boat club and let us drink at the bar. And I mean, just the generosity was unmatched. It was
Yeah.
unbelievable. And we just had the best time. Like it's a neat club. It's a really neat
Yeah.
club.
And
So
you actually raced in the eight. What in that boat we actually won Henley with last year. So that was like the
really?
newest eight. Yeah, that's
Oh,
the
I didn't
Auto
know
Canals,
it was
that
the same
boat.
boat.
Huh?
Oh my gosh. I didn't know it was the same boat.
Yeah,
That's
because you were the race you rode the Holland during the Holland Baker, you had like the newest Empire we had, like, in our boathouse. That was like the newest Empire. It was only, I think, because when was it when you came to Okanos for the first time?
2018. I think it
Yeah,
was 2000.
2018. It was, that boat was only 2 years old,
Oh my
I
gosh.
think, 1 or 2 years old. So it was like it was one of the newest Empires we had. So the best boat that they had.
Wow. I know and that's the same one that was
Yeah,
what is it called? The
out
Orca?
Okanos.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's the old Okanos, because the old old Okanos is like the special part of our club with all the old members in it, and they donated the boat to the association.
Oh, that's really neat. Well,
Yeah,
it's a very neat club, and if there's one thing I learned, oops.
our connection went bad.
No problem. I can cut that part out. That's easy.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Um, well, if there's one thing I learned, it's definitely that the Dutch clubs are steeped in traditions and
Yeah.
upholding promises. So you kept your promise, you joined the
Yeah.
club, and ended up going to Henley last year. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about Henley, because what I want to start talking about that I get a lot of questions about is distances. And as you obviously know, maybe many people don't know that Henley is not a 2K. So
No.
it's not a 2K. Exactly, exactly. So tell us a little bit about Henley, first of all, and then let's dive right into these distances because this is going to be good.
Okay, well, Henley, yeah, for me, Henley was like the dream to go to. So when the crew asked me, "Do you want to come with us to Henley?" then the first thing you say is yes, of course. It's like one of the major goals you have during your coxing career is, or the Olympics, but the Olympics is only like two coxswains in the Netherlands that can go to the Olympics, and Henley is more approachable, but only for the better crews. And we found out last year that we had, like, the crew was pretty good and it could even be better. So they asked me, okay, do you want to go with us to Henley? And I said, yes, straight away. Yeah, of course. So every year you watch the live streams with the crews that like New York, every year New York is participating, Nira is participating always, but Okanos isn't participating every year. Like some like the female crews, they're participating, but not the male crew. So we were like the first male crew in a long time that was going there. And the thing was, we weren't none of us were students anymore yet. We had two guys in the crew that they were already like doing their residency in medical school. So they were working like 60 hours a week. So none of us were students anymore. But so then you have to decide, okay, which like in which part of Henley are we going to participate? And we're like, okay, well, then the Thames Cup is the best because none of us studies anymore. And they actually this year they changed the regulations, unfortunately due to everything Henley is cancelled, but they changed the registration that you're not allowed to enter the Thames Cup now when you're in a student association. And last year it was still allowed, but the only rule was you're not allowed to be a student anymore. So everybody in the boat has to work, and they're really strict with the selection if you're allowed to participate in one of the races. And so we had like a big motivational letter of 2 pages long, the reason why we should participate in the Thames Cup. So there was like, okay, for weeks we were like fingers crossed, are we allowed to participate in the Thames Cup or not? So we were finger crossing, okay, do you have a response yet from Henley? Are we allowed to? And then finally get to the point, okay, we're allowed to go. And then you still need to hear the response if you're straightaway qualified or you need to raise the qualifications. And we're like, oh my God, we only started rowing together 2 months before Henley. So that's like a really short point, because if you look at the Thames Rowing Club, that crew is already training for a whole year for Henley, because that's like their main goal. They need to win Henley because they won it here for years in a row. And we were like 2 months from, well, we want to go to Henley. Let's go to Henley. And we're like, okay. So we have to first, so we did the ARB. That's like the one race in the Netherlands also. And for us, it was like, okay, good test. See what our time is, see what we end up, if our time is good enough, do we really want to go with this time, so we can show Henley that this is our time that we race. So actually in that race we were participating against the junior Holland 8 and the near out crew who always starts the Temple Challenge Cup. And we were, and because that race in Amsterdam was so big, we had time trial. So it wasn't like a normal race, the first round. It was like a time trial. So you just have to start. You don't know how fast you are because you're not racing against other boats. And you're like, okay, yeah, well, let's do something. And we went and we came in and we were like, okay, what was our time? And he was looking at us and he said, and I said, well, tell me. Yeah, how did it go? Yeah, well, it could go better. And he said, well, you had the third time. So the first time was the junior Holland 8. The second time was the near edge crew. And you were the third time. So we thought, well, probably so eventually during the finals, we became third also. And then he sent that time to Henley. And we're like, yeah, probably we need to do the qualifiers, because all those crews are so strong and so fast. And there was a 2K race the week before the qualifier in England. So we were looking up the time of the Thames Rowing Club A, and we were like, we're faster than them, but you don't know what the weather conditions are. You don't know what happens. So, okay, you can't compare it because you don't know the water where they were racing on, because we were racing on our own, like on the Bosbaan. Mm-hmm. We train there, so that's our home base. So we were like, okay, we can't compare it, but yeah, maybe we're faster than them. So we'll see. And then we got the they give you the results. So the response, if you have to do the qualifier race or you're like straight away qualified, you're like, okay, oh, we don't have to do the qualifiers race. You're straight away qualified. And then you have to look, then you see that some, when they give you the list with the starting, so like the first schedule, the first day, like who you have to race against, there are a few crews that are like bold in it because they're straight away placed. And the other crews, like they shovel it up, because when you're they play some crews, so because they think they probably will be the fastest crew, so they don't end up racing each other like on the first day. And we were looking, we're like, oh my God, we're like placed in it. Okay, so I started counting. I was like, okay, let's see where we will meet Sam's Challenge Cup. There's like during the Sam's Challenge Cup, where will we meet Sam's Rowing Club A? Because they won for 2 years in a row. So I was like, okay, I'm going to calculate when I was like, oh my God. So I told the guys, I was like, oh my God, guys, I just like calculated where we will meet Sam's Rowing Club A. And if we're ever going to meet them, we will meet them in the final. So like, okay, they probably Henley like saw our time and they were like, okay, they're like one of the top crews. So we're placing them there because then those top crews will meet, then it will be on the semifinals or the finals. So that will be great races. So like, okay. And then you go to Henley with that feeling and you're like, oh my God, they have like big expectation of us and we don't even know. It's for us, it's none of us have ever raced there. Yeah. So yeah, one of our, like my stroke, he raced there in a 2 with our coach, but that's different. It's not in an 8. And I was like, okay, every year you watch Henley race and you watch it and you're like, you see everything happening there, it's big happening. And then the first day we arrived there on Tuesday evening and we went on the water for practice and we're like, oh, that was my cat, sorry. You need to cut this out. She's like throwing everything from the table. She wants attention, sorry.
Of course. Of course.
Okay. I'll continue my story. So
yes.
We went on the Tuesday, so we arrived at Tuesday evening and straight away went on the water for a practice round. So to see how the water is and to get the feeling before you start racing the day after straight away. And so on the water, I was there. I was like, oh my God, I'm at Henley. Oh, now I'm lying here. So I was like starstruck. I was, oh my God, now it's for real. It's not like, oh, this is never gonna happen. It was for real. So that was actually quite happening. And then the first, like the distance in Henley, it's only like 100 meters longer than a 2K. But that 100 meters longer is so much longer. You don't know where you need to say the end sprint. And the problem with us was the first day, we couldn't race. It was like, okay, we started and straight away we were like 2 boat lengths in front of the other boat. And it was like, okay, guys, just row. Because they were way back, way behind. And that was the same on the second day. We were so much in front of them. I was like, okay, guys, just relax, slow down a little bit, let them come. And at one point, even I was like we were going really slow. And my stroke said, Rianne, we're still going way too far away from them. I was like, okay, guys, even a little bit lower. So the first race we actually had was the quarterfinals on Friday. That was like, okay, now we have to race. And at that point, you're like, okay, we have to do the end sprint, but where are you going to do the end sprint? Because normally with a 2K race, you know exactly when you want to go for the sprint. But at Henley, it's like, okay, where am I going to do it? So exactly. That was, for me, that was so difficult at Henley to find out, okay, when do I need to do it?
It's easy to make mistakes doing that. And it's very difficult to decide because you're not necessarily just racing the distance. Like obviously you're racing a distance, but you aren't necessarily judging on the distance. You're judging sort of on the duel, like on the boat next to you in a way. So you're having to sort of decide, do I stick to a distanced race plan that I'm sort of used to, but having to move back 100 meters? Do I make it longer? Is this boat going to catch me? Because, I mean, obviously we've seen races that are very far apart in Henley, but sometimes it does come down to a bow ball or a deck and you don't want to get caught. So do you go early? Do you hold off? Do you, it's very hard to judge. You could get hit with a huge wake. You could, have a terrible headwind. I've raced at Henley where I was literally in a trough the entire race and it was horrible. So you know, we were just almost more in survival mode because we were just surfing, and it like I almost couldn't
Yeah.
steer, and it was just, you know, you have to be able to adjust. So
Yeah, and you have the booms next to you and the strange current flow. And if you're on the Saturday, it's so crowded that you have all the waves from all the boats next to you. So if
yes,
you're at the end of the day, the water is terrible. It's like terrible, terrible, terrible in the end
yes,
of the day.
yes.
So for me, that was like the Saturday, the semifinals were like the worst race you can have there.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun because of all the people there, but everybody on next to water, everybody's drunk, everybody's partying. They're not there for the races, they're for the environment there because it's like the socialite event of England, and you have all those rules that you have to keep in account. And at one point, actually, that was like the worst disaster you can have on Henley. I never had a crash before, so I
Yeah.
never hit anything before. Yeah, I hit like another boat during the Heineken because well, other story. We'll talk about it later. But that was like a controlled hit. So I hit them like controlled. Okay, we're going to hit them. Just keep rowing because they made like a steering pull. But this was like we were just on our way to like the warming up. So we were on our way. We're on the right side of at the right side of the course, on their way to the start, and all of a sudden, one stupid drunk guy in a stupid dinghy. All of a sudden, I was looking 5 minutes, like 5 seconds before that, I was looking in front of me, and there was nothing. And all of a sudden, I see that dinghy in front of me. I was like, okay, guys, watch out. I couldn't even tell them what they needed to watch out for because we already hit that dinghy.
Yeah.
And then your semifinals still need to start.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the worst way to start your semifinals.
Yep.
So I was like shocked. I was, oh my God. And one of my rowers was like, okay, guys, it happened. Don't think about it. We're just going to do what we're always doing. Don't think about it. I was like, okay, he's completely right. And there was a other guy, an English guy, standing on the side, and he said, what the hell was he thinking, that guy? I said, yeah, same here. He said, is your boat still okay? I said, I think it's okay. Are the oars still okay? I think they're okay. And eventually found out because Concept 2 is also there. And on Sunday morning, we brought one of our oars to Concept 2. And there was a tear this big in it because we hit that dinghy. Yeah.
Unbelievable. I know people just don't pay attention. It's really, really awful. And that is one of the challenges of Henley too.
Yeah.
I mean, we got really bad boat wake during our race, like our second race. We had okay water the first one, but I mean, the second race was awful. It was really bad. People just speeding up and down and drinking and shouting, and they're like, would you just slow down, please? Like, we're trying to race here. You know, please.
Yeah, but they're not even there for the races. They're just there for the social event.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. So we do get a lot of questions written in about these different distances. And one thing that I think you have a serious advantage in is racing so many distances. You have an opportunity to race anything from 250s to Henley distances to you've got Heineken, you've got regular 2Ks. So I'd love to talk a little bit about how to maybe start from the longer head races, something like Head of the Charles. We get a lot of questions about to the longer distances, maybe in Heineken. How would you maybe break up a distance in a race that long? So a lot of newer coxswains especially will go like, I don't even know what to say for that long. I don't know what to do. How would you break up a race you know, in segments or to break it down and race it?
Yeah, the thing is, we have the Heineken, for the ones who don't know what the Heineken is. Everybody thinks it's a beer. Yeah, of course it's beer. It's like that's how it's a beer, but it's like Heineken. The Heineken race is the Heineken rowing regatta. That's like 4 different distances that you have to race. So on Saturday you start with 2.5K and 250 meters sprint. So 2.5K, that's like comparable with Henley, but Henley is like a straight line, and on the Amstel in Amsterdam you have like all the you have to go around corners all the time, and the corners aren't like a, a slow corner. No, they're like 90 degrees corners, because everybody is always freaking out about one corner on the Amstel, but actually the first when you have 2.5 kilometers, so the 2,500 meters, you already have to go under the bridge. And the first bridge you enter, that corner is already 90 degrees. And people don't think about that corner. They always think about the 5 kilometers that's on the Sunday, because you have like the big corner, and even the rowing associations, so the rowing crews that are not from Amsterdam, they call that like the it's not a really polite word to say, but it's like the prostitution corner. If you translate it, when you translate it, it sounds really strange, but it's like the most awful corner you can have during a race. And it's also pretty steep. That it's really hard to on full, because that corner is straight away when you come out of the start. So you have like a high speed, and you're still not on the race speed you want to have to continue that. So you're still higher than the race speed you want to have during your race. So you still need to get your race speed, but straight away you're going into it. You're going flying into it. And what you see a lot of times happen is, I always find it really funny to watch at that corner to the novice coxswains that are not familiar with the racing track, because they steer in way too early, or like, oh no, they're not gonna make it, or they're going to steer in way too late, so they're at like all the other side of the Amstel, and you don't want to be on the other side of the Amstel, not straight away. So they have to tell their right bow, so at the bow seat, they have to tell them, okay, more strong, and at the other side, they have to tell them, okay, light, and the other stronger, so they can steer it. And it's so funny to see, because none of them, they come through it perfectly, and it's so funny to see. But then you have the bridge, and that's like steeper even than the big corner. It's steeper. And the funniest thing with that bridge is, at the other side of it is like a boathouse. So what happens if you don't take that corner good enough, you will hit the boathouse. And every year it happens. So a lot of boats got like damaged because they hit the boathouse. And that's also pretty funny to see, because all the coaches are like, yeah, you have to watch out for the big corner. You have to watch out for the big corner. But they forget to tell them, watch out for the corner at the first bridge, because that's even steeper than the first one. And so what we do with the Heineken, because you have all those distances and you have a lot of bridges, we always cut it up in bridges and in corners. So that's actually what I do. After the first, when you have like the 2,500 meters, you have straight out of the start, you go underneath the bridge, you have to turn. Straight after the turn, I give them a push and a focus point. So you have like your training, during your training, you have like all different kinds of focus points. And those focus points make your boat move smoother through the water. So I give them one focus point. Then you go to the other corner on the Heineken. You go to a corner that goes to the left a little bit. And then I do another push with one focus point. And then you go underneath the big bridge again. And then I give them another push after it with another focus point. And then you go to the last corner. And then you give them another push with another focus point. And halfway between that corner and the bridge, and that's always tricky to calculate, because you always have to see where you're in with the field, because you're not next to each other. So you always have to see what all the other boats do around you to figure out where am I going to do the end sprint. If you're like in the middle, at one point we came around the corner, and that was in my second year coxing, so that was in 2013 now? I think it was 2014. And so that was, it was in 2014. That was or 13. I don't know. Doesn't matter. But actually, we came around the corner and we were already like gaining onto a crew, and we were faster than them, and we could have passed them way earlier, but they just couldn't do it. So at one point around the corner, I became a little bit angry with them. So I was like more forced behind my voice, like, okay, now you're going to do it. Give me a push and push through it. But we came around the corner, and there was the boat. We were gaining on one boat, but there were two other boats there, and they were gaining on those two other boats. And you have a bridge, and there are only four ways to enter that bridge. You have like the most perfect hole to go through. You have like the one the right of it that's like, okay, you're in the middle of the Amstel, you don't want to do that. And you have even more to the side, no, you don't want to go there. And then you have like the left hole, and the left hole is a little bit tricky because there's a boathouse next to it, and so you have to do a little bit like this and then go back again. So you have to steer a little bit, and you always have to tell them, okay, row straight, give me a push, don't make any sudden movement, because if one of the guys just moves a little bit to the right, then the boat goes and you're steering way off. So at that point, we were gaining on that crew and on the other crew, and there was a crew from England. So we were gaining on a crew from Delft, I think, and they were gaining on a crew from England. And I was like, okay. And you always memorize where the crews are from. So I knew they were from one of the universities in England. And I was like, okay, they don't speak Dutch. So I told my guys, okay, we need to push now. So we were already in the end sprint. So I told my guys, okay, we need to push now. We're gaining on another boat, but I don't want them to go in my side of the bridge. I want them to move the other way, because we have like perfect line now, and it's not like the good hole. So I told my guys, keep rowing like this. Don't be scared. I'm gonna shout now because there's someone in my way, and I want them to move.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's like, and I was like, okay. And you're not allowed to curse officially, so but I used curse word to give more force. Okay, now move out of my way. So I called them the number, and I said, number, I don't know which number it was anymore, move out of my way. So their coxswain, he like, was, what is happening? Their stroke was like, what is happening? So the boat speed of that boat was like boom. They were like still. They were like, okay, we need to go out of the way, and we were straight away. We were in front of them. And we also gained in on the other boat. So it always depends on what I try with the longer races. I always have like the focus points during the course where I give them a focus point, a push with a focus point, and focus on that point, because you don't want to give too much points to the crew. And it's always like, okay, how's the boat moving? Which focus point am I going to use? So what is necessary now? Do they need to push longer? Do they need to hang more on their arms? Do they need to move through the boat at the same way? It always depends on the crew, and that's always the advice that I give: is every corner or bridge, or if there aren't any corners or bridge or whatever, choose some focus points on the course, because you always study the course before you start racing. So take some points in the course and then give them a push with a point to focus on. And that helps your crew to go faster.
I think that's so smart. And what are some things that you would use, like some examples of a push? Because I know a lot of younger coxswains too will just count tens, and they maybe know they're not supposed to, but they don't know what else to do. And so what are some things that you might use for a push coming out of a bridge before that focus point?
Well, it depends on some crews actually like the counting. So that's the thing. You always, I can't say straight away what you should do, because you should always ask your crew what they like, because there's not a wrong way to do it. There's not a right way to do it. It's always, one of the guys is always like, oh, I hate it when you do that. But the other guys are like, Oh, I love it when you do it. So
No,
you come.
isn't that the truth? You're never going to please everyone. Whatever it is you pick,
Yeah.
you're never going to please everybody.
And what I found out in all those years coxing is that always for a race, I sit down with the guys. It even, especially when it's like a new crew and I haven't coxed them before, I always ask them before a race, okay, I haven't coxed you before. I don't know exactly what you like and what you prefer. So I want to hear straight what are the calls that do it for you. So how can, like you said in your help me to help you, like you say before, and that's the thing you have to do as a coxswain. You have to always ask them, okay, what is it that helps you to move faster?
Yes.
So if I give you a push, what is the word that you want me to say? Do you want me to count? Because then I will count for you. Some hate it if you count, so I won't count for you. Some, at one point I just gave like, you make a sound for, okay, like that. Some crews find it amazing because then it's for them, it's like, okay, I have to put my blade in now. So you have like the okay, okay, it's like sounds like that, and they, when sounds like that help if they're not too fast with putting their oars in the water, so they're not straight away all together with the oars in the water. Sounds like that will help them to give them, okay, at that point the oar has to be in the water, and that helps with some crews. That helps. Some guys hate it.
So true. That is so
Yeah.
true. I think that's really good advice. And so that, I think that's a really good way to kind of break down a longer race, like,
Yeah.
like a head race and stuff. Cause you do have a little bit of time. You're not next to other boats. It's a very different style of racing. So you do
Yeah.
have to keep things very internal, and you do for a 2K as well, but now you're 6 boats across. So it's a little bit different, or 7 boats across, however many lanes across. So let's move into more of like a 2K distance, like a standard 2K.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of questions, obviously, about the 2K and how to break down that distance. So, hey, I'm recording here. Some roommates, I can get this part out. Yeah. So when you get to 2K, things happen so quickly that it's often difficult, even though it's so much shorter. It seems like it would be easier to have to not make less calls, but you don't have time to necessarily just go, okay, here's one focus point. This is going to be 4 minutes long, or this is going, things just keep changing and keep happening. So how would you look at a 2K even before you go race? You know who you're lining up against. What are you looking at focusing on, the first 250, or do you break it down into 500s, or like, how would you sort of approach the breakdown?
Actually, the thing is that every crew breaks down the race most of the time in 250 meters. So the thing is, don't break it up in 250 meters, but break it up in 300 meters. You know why? Because at that point, you give the crew a push that the other crews don't expect.
I love it. I love
So,
it.
and that's also what we do with the end sprint on a 2K. With that crew, what we did on the end sprint is we don't do the end sprint at 250 meters. Sometimes you have to do it early at the 500 meters, depends on where in the field you are, but the most perfect way is to do your end sprint on 250 meters. Like, that's like the perfect scenario. If you have time, you do it on 250 meters, because then you can go loco the last 250 meters. So you can go all mental the last 250 meters. But if you do it at the last 300 meters, they won't expect it. And that's the same with if you do it, if you think you have to go on your last 500 meters, do it at the last 600 meters.
That's so smart. That's so good. I love that element of surprise. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, same here, because it's so way much more fun. You're like, okay, they expect me to go now, but I'm not going now. I'm going now.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of times too, with newer coxswains, it's also a little bit harder to judge where that is. sometimes. Like you rely on buoys and there's so much going on. You're trying to execute a race plan already. So you're a little bit overwhelmed, but then having to sort of deviate from the obvious is a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
So I think, that gets kind of tough. So that might be maybe level 2, level 3.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe people are just smart. Maybe I'd have to think about it. So
Well,
I don't know.
the nicest thing is when you have like the 250 meters, you have the race course already tells you when the 250 meter every 250 meters it tells you, so it's easy.
Yes.
But you can also think, okay, we're now passing. When I pass the 250 meters, that means that my bow guy is already at 260 meters.
Yes. Yes. People forget you have a very long boat.
Well, not 206 meters. The boat is about 18 meters long. So when you, as a coxswain, pass the 250 meters line, then they're already at 200. Your bowman is already at 265 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So you can also give it in account that when your whole boat is past the 250 meters line, then give them a call, push now.
Exactly. Okay, so after breaking up the distance a little bit, how do you break up calls? This is probably the second most common thing I get asked about. Like, how do I approach a 2K without just repeating myself the entire time? Like, what am I going to tell them? Do you look at a 2K and break it up? Like, I know I do. I sort of go through a rotation of 3 different things, like telling them where they are, what we need to do in order to get there, and what I want them to do next. Something like that. Something a very simple rotation. But do you break up a 2K that way at all, or is there anything that you kind of go through, just getting through those distances?
Depends on that depends on the crew that you're coxing. Again, it depends. It's totally dependable on which crew you have. Even with the last crew that I raced Henley with, that was so strange. I told a lot of coxswains what we did in the start of race. The first 15 strokes, I didn't say anything. I wasn't allowed to say anything in the first 15 strokes.
I've had crews like that too. They're like, just honestly, just don't, like, we'll take care of it. Just tell us where we are.
They were like,
15 strokes.
Yeah, they were like, okay, the first 15 strokes, don't tell us everything. First 15 strokes, I said, okay, first 15 strokes, they're for you. But after those first 15 strokes, you're mine. I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. They're like, okay, we're good with that. So we can decide the first 15 strokes, so we're going to do that. And then after that, it's your turn. And then it always, okay, how does the boat move? What do I feel? So you always have to, you don't have to think for yourself, okay, now I need to say this. No, you don't need to say this now. You need to feel, what is the boat doing? What is our speed? So always look on your stroke count. Always look, okay, how do I make this boat go faster? So what call do I need to give now to push them further?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's dependable on the crew. And most of the times what I do is that you have like 3 focus points in your boat. And if you use more than 3 focus points during a 2K race, rowers are simple beings. No offense. They're simple beings. They're like racing and they're focusing on one thing. And if you keep calling them things to do, they will get mixed up. They will get mixed up what to do, and then your race will be terrible.
So I always tell them on that note, guys, I really love you, but you are strong like rock, smart like rock.
Yeah.
Just sit there and put the stick in the water. I'll tell you when to do certain things, make sure we're all on the same page, but one thing at a time. I mean,
yeah, don't think, just do.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you have to keep it so simple and just tell them, such specific things too. So I get a lot of coxswains too that write in and say like, oh, I can tell, like, you guys, you're rushing. And I'm like, yeah, but what is causing that? Break it down into, like, think about somebody who can't think. during a race. They literally, you have to spell things out for them and say like, okay, they already know that they're rushing, but what do they need to do about it? You know,
So you have to tell them, okay, you need to do this so you won't stop rushing.
Exactly. On the smallest level, you know, it could be just, you know, relaxing a little bit. You probably don't want to say that during a 2K too much. Again, totally depends on the crew. Totally depends on the crew. I mean, I've had some that want that, and it's surprising to me, but
I never use the word relax. The thing
no.
what I always say is, okay, sit up straight.
Yes.
Sit up straight. And if the boat is like moving a little bit like this, and I was like, okay, you have two butts. Sit on boat, not on one, on boat.
Yep. That's so true. That is so true. Yeah. So we get a lot of questions about not repeating calls just too many times. So how did you start to do that? Like when you were a newer coxswain, did you repeat calls? And like when did you kind of start to branch out and become a little bit better at not doing that? Because I think that takes a little bit of time. That takes experience.
That takes a lot of experience. For me, it took about, after 3 years, I stopped doing that. And it also depends on which crew it is, because if it's a younger crew, you need to repeat a lot because you say it once and then they already forget it. So with newer crews, with younger crews, you need to repeat it more often. With more older crews, you just say, okay, you need to do this now, and you don't say anything anymore because they're doing it. And then after 5 strokes, you need to repeat it again. But they can do it themselves. They know exactly what they need to do when you say one call, okay, focus point this now. And they will do it. And that's what you learn in the longer way when you're like the second year's rowers. You shouldn't do that already with the second year's rowers. But when you have like the real experienced rowers, then you straight away, when you keep repeating things, they will straight away tell you. And they will hate you for it.
Yes.
Yeah. They will actually hate you for it when you repeat things.
Yeah. Rowers won't hesitate to tell you what to do and what they like and don't like. So they will definitely tell you.
Yeah, but they're like shocked when you tell them what you don't like about them.
Right. It's not a two-way street here. We're not. Yeah, we also get a lot of questions written in about that. Like this is a whole different podcast, really. I want to do a show on this, but having that one guy in the boat or that one girl in the boat that really gives you a problem, you know, that like there's one personality that just back talks, coaches from the middle of the boat, whatever it is, just makes your life really difficult. So I think we'll do another show on that, but I think we've all dealt with that guy or that girl, you know.
I think the thing is with there's also a lot of difference between coxing male and female in that.
Yes. Again, we're going to do a show on that because that's a whole topic that's, I think, really interesting, and people don't always think about that unless you've coxed both or you know. So I know you would know too because you also tend to cox men.
Yeah. So what do you prefer? Do you prefer coxing men or women?
100% men.
Oh, same here.
Same. I mean, 100%.
Yeah.
And I've been sort of chastised for that. Like people have given me a hard time for that, and they're like, "How come not women?" Or "How come you don't like women?" And I'm like, "It's not like I don't like women. That's not what I'm saying. It's very different. It's just a very different approach, very different style."
Well, actually, what I've found out is that lightweight women are actually like heavyweight men.
I agree.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that said in a long time, but they do sort of have a different fun, like a different style about it.
Yeah. If I have to choose between coxing women, and then I would definitely choose lightweight women.
That is so
I like coxing them.
Yes, it's fun. Now, is it because they're lightweight women or because they're lightweights? And lightweights are always pretty fun.
Yeah, well, they're the same size as we are, almost.
Yeah, that's true.
And no, they're like their character style is a little bit like the heavyweight men. And
Yeah,
you always when you always also when you look who's dating who, always the heavyweights are always dating the lightweight women.
that is so true.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to do a show on this. This is so I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Okay, so I guess the takeaways for our distance really quick, and then I have a couple questions that were written in that I would love to hear your answers for from people that
Okay.
wrote some questions in. So basically, break the race down into distances. If it's a longer race, give a little bit of push out of a corner or bridge, and then one focus point. And then for a 2K, we're going to break it down into the different distances and maybe split it up a little bit, maybe 300 meters instead of 250. And again, focusing on one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Just kind of breaking it down. Anything else that I missed there?
No, that's
Takeaways. Okay.
summarized
Perfect.
perfectly.
So, perfect. Okay. So, if you don't mind, I'd love to hear some of your answers. These are questions that people wrote in that I think are pretty good. So, does it annoy the cocks if one of the crew makes calls during a race?
Yeah, terrible. I hate it.
Perfect. Me
There,
too.
if they want to keep to like give calls, okay, go in a 4 without a coxswain, go in a 2 without a coxswain, or go coxing yourself.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay. How can I cox the top boat and be better and smaller than the other coxswains on my team? Now that might be a different question, but how can I cox the top boat better? So basically, what I know that's a very vague question.
Yeah.
But what do you think is maybe a trait that makes a good coxswain great?
Listen to your rowers, listen to your coaches. You have to be, the thing is, always sit down with your coaches before the race. Ask them what they expect from you, and always sit down with your coaches and with the crew and talk to each other what you expect from each other. And that already makes you a better captain than if you just jump in the boat and do what you're always doing.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's really good. Um, let's see. I'm trying to see. Some of these are so good. Some of these are so good. Okay, how do I stop repeating myself? We talked about that a little bit, and that just takes experience, I think. And I think also just kind of adding to that a little bit is think about how many ways you can say one thing. How many
Yeah.
ways can you make one call? And kind of give it a little bit of variety. But I would try those things in training and see if they work before. So you're not out in the race just
Never, never, no, never use new things in a race. Never do that.
Exactly. Perfect. Okay. Oh, here's a good one. And this might be relevant for right now since none of us can be on the water. What is the best way to try to get into the top boat after a long time out of rowing?
Ooh, yeah, for me, that happened last year.
Yep.
That happened for me actually last year because I was still, actually, I was only focusing on coaching last year. So I was coaching the lightweight men crew.
Okay.
And yeah, the thing about it is they need to see you. If they don't see you, they won't ever, don't expect them to ask you. Just be there. You need to be there. That's the thing. So don't expect crews to come to you. Okay, I was lucky enough that the crew came to me, but you have to be in the goodwill.
You'd put in the time though, and you'd
Yeah,
been around before. So
yeah. So you need to be, if you sit in a corner and you expect them to ask you, they won't ask you. They will never ask you.
yeah, I agree. That's really smart. I think that's a very smart answer. And it's so true. I mean, you even hear that on the national team level. They're like, if you aren't around, if you aren't training, they don't care. They don't know who you are. They don't like
Yeah.
if you just need to go on the launch every day, go on the launch every day or coach from the shore, coach from land.
Yeah, but also if they do, if they do a core training, join them during their core training. Join them on the on the erg, because coxswains also need to be fit. It takes a lot of energy to cox, so you also need to be really fit.
Yes.
So join them. Why don't you join them? Come on.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So last question before we wrap up. Somebody wanted to know, what do you think about like being a woman on a men's team, hooking up with them, your own crew?
No, 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 never, never, ever. Because you need to see them as like your small brothers. Come on, they're like your brothers. They see you as their sister, or as their mother sometimes even. Don't
Oh, yeah.
hook up with someone in your boat. That's only it will only get drama from it.
It leads to almost nothing good.
No.
Really,
Did you actually ever hook up with someone in your boat?
yeah, it's not good. I have a rule about that too. I'm like, don't ever do it. Like, different boat, different team. You know, I did date a guy on a team one time, but he was never in my boat. He was never, you know, wasn't.
Wait, so you never hooked up with a guy in your boat?
I wouldn't say that's entirely untrue, but like fun boats, not one where like I was on their team all year. Nothing, you know, like nothing like an all year kind of team. Maybe fun boats that we've put together.
Oh, I actually never did it. I swear to God, I never did it. Huh?
I blame him still. It was his fault.
Always blame the guy. Yeah. No,
Exactly.
no, that's like the worst thing you can do as a coxswain is hook up with one of your guys.
Oh yeah.
Never do that. You just see them as your little brother. Come on. When you're
I mean, they really are. Yeah.
yeah,
Like some of them
when
like call me mom and stuff, and I'm like, oh, don't
yeah, but you're like their mom, because they're like little infants sometimes. I love them. I still love them, and
Oh, yeah.
they're, come on, you're with Henley, you're sitting in a house with 10 guys. Well, 9 guys. We had, our coach was a guy too. So you're with 10 people in a house in Henley, away from home. You're the only girl there. You don't want to hook up with them.
No.
Because you know what happens in a house like that? No, well, they walk around with everything out. So you don't want, no.
Exactly. Oh yeah, you get more than you ever bargained for when you're a men's cox.
Yeah. Yeah, and even
Yeah.
when you cox like lightweight men, it's even worse, because you go to the weigh-in with them.
Yeah.
And what happens when lightweight men are like, okay, I'm like 10 grams, it's gonna be close. So 10 grams. Well, what do they pull off all their clothes, and they're standing there butt naked on the scale right in front of you. Sorry, but no.
Yeah.
Never would I ever.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would say like my story was like a vast exception, like total fun boat thrown together post racing, like nothing serious was, you know, we weren't going to be training together afterwards. So like, but no, I mean, it leads to nothing good. And like you said, it's like you're just trying to make sure they don't forget their socks and their oars, and like you're just
or whatever.
Yeah. It's just, I'm with you. But yeah.
No, that's
okay.
like, if you seriously, that's like the one thing I can give to novice coxes. If you want to be kicked out of a crew, hook up with your guy.
It's so true. I mean, I've seen it break boats up, like break boats apart.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it can be really bad if you're on a team. So
yeah,
you know, and then it, of course, you know, leads to people thinking you got the seat because the guys just think you're hot or like it or like you, or, you know, it's just, none of it's good. So
no.
Okay, well, again, that is a whole other show. I think we're going to do. I have so many people that are really interested in that, like that dynamic of like men and women, like having men on men coxing women's teams and women coxing men's teams, like dynamic. So I think we'll
actually. Well, actually, I had a boyfriend I got in a fight with him because I was coxing a men's crew. and it was sunny, so the sun was shining. And you don't want, as a rower, you don't want any sunscreen on your hands because then your grip on the oar will get terrible. So they
Right.
always ask, okay, can you please like put sunscreen on me because otherwise it takes a long time to get off. So I was putting sunscreen on the guy, and that was my ex-boyfriend, and he was like shouting at me afterwards, yeah, you were sunscreen and you found it way too fun. I was looking at him, guy, dude, they're like my little brothers. Come on.
Oh my gosh. I know. I
Yeah.
know. It's a very unique relationship that we have with them. It really is. Like you do
Yeah.
it's just what you do. You just, you help them out, you give them water, you put sunscreen on them. It's just what.
Yeah, and they come when they see you, they come running over to you and they throw you up in the air 2 meters. Yeah, well, things like that happen, but it's like they see you as their little sister. My brother does that to me. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll do a whole show on this because I think we could have stories for days, and it's a very interesting, unique dynamic. So I think we'll talk
Yeah.
about it. But for now, again, where can we kind of follow what you're doing? Are you still coaching, or like I mean, obviously we're off the water now, but what's coming up for you?
Well, actually, I'm still finding out what I'm going to do. At this point, well, now nobody's training, so but maybe at one point I want to go coaching again, and then probably at a different so not at a student association anymore. I want to go to like a normal rowing association and do stuff there, so coaching there and maybe coaching also. But I need to find out first.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's a
Absolutely.
little bit slow for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it's a little bit slow right now, but where in the meantime can people follow you? Can we follow you on Instagram, or what would be a good place for people to find you? Maybe answer or like ask questions or write in. I know you have so many stories and so many amazing experiences and so much wisdom that we could talk forever. So
Yeah,
where can people find
you? On Instagram.
Okay.
Look on my name, and you will find me.
Perfect. All right.
I think there's like in my Instagram name, there's like an underscore in between Rianne and Koomen.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time here. I mean, I really appreciate all of your ideas, and you just have so much to offer. And you're so interesting and have done so many cool things. And one Henley, not many people can say that. So it's pretty amazing. I'm kind of jealous, but I love it.
Oh, you will eventually. Come on, how many times have you raced at Henley?
I'm trying. I just you have to kind of get lucky with the competition too. Like it depends on who enters that year. If I'm racing national teams and or it depends. It's tough.
Yeah, but how many times have you raced at Henley?
Only once.
Only once?
Yeah.
Was last year your first time?
Yep.
Well, next time you will. Come on.
Yeah,
a lot of crews want you.
Oh my God. Oh, you're too kind. You're too kind. Henley's one of those races that's always eluded me. Like every team that I was on decided like not to go that year, or the team that I was going to Cox like canceled and went and did something else. So it was like, I've just never gotten to go. So,
that's
so I was like, finally I get to go. And just the last thing I do, I was like, I'm going to put my own crew together and just do it myself, and had a Dutch stroke, and we went out and just had a good time. So
yeah, you had such an amazing crew.
Oh my gosh, they're special.
I had so much fun. During the Sunday evening. I can't remember even because that was like finally we could go partying, and I had so much fun.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad. It was such a special group. It really was.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much again. I really appreciate it. For all your ideas. And again, go to Instagram and follow you. I'll put that in the show notes as well. People can also follow me at the Candid Cox, or email in questions or topics, anything that you have to say or ask about at thecandidcox@gmail.com. But for now, I think that will be all. And we will have another episode coming up about not hooking up with your crew. What not to do. Exactly. But until then, we will see you guys all next time. So thanks.
Thank you
Bye.
so much. Bye.